Okay. Hey. I'm here. There's Amy.
Hi.
We're here. We're gonna try and talk loud. We're gonna do a little walking. I know the courthouse isn't in front of you guys, but it's in front of me. So here it is. There we go. Look at all this parking.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
All of a sudden we don't have a parking problem anymore.
I know, right?
Standing back.
Yeah, she's behind me. I promise.
Going
She's
to talk loud.
loudly. We'll get people going. So,
What are we doing today, Krista?
Well, we're doing the courthouse. Here's the courthouse. As you can see, there's a light pole. We are actually standing across the street, obviously, in the square, just because we wanted to show you some pretty flowers first. Hold on, let me get this. It's a fantabulously beautiful day. I know that a lot of you guys can't come to see the flowers because we're being very good at social distancing, but please go outside at your own house and take a couple steps out in the fresh air. So here we have the courthouse. I have never been in this courthouse. I have never had the pleasure of jury duty. I'll put pleasure in quotes. But
I've been in.
have you now, you lucky duck? I have not been in.
Why, but I've been in.
Yeah, I know why you've been in. No, just kidding. I really don't. So what we're gonna do is kind of give everybody a history of the courthouse. It's not so breezy today. It was a little breezy last week when we were doing
No, it
this.
feels good. Hopefully
Yeah.
you can all hear us.
Yeah.
We're gonna try
Hi,
to
Jack.
stand not too close together, but you know, I'm gonna try to talk louder. If any cars go by, we'll
Yeah.
pause.
We'll walk. We're gonna walk across the street too. Just so we've got a lot of pictures to show you today. Hopefully, since it's not super breezy, we can do that. So if you're not familiar with kind of the history, overall, Cobb County was founded in 1832 after the annexation of Cherokee lands, and Cobb County, late 1832, was one of, I think, 11 counties that were formed out of that the Cherokee lands. And then Marietta was established in 1834, pretty much as the, what you would say, center, the capital. Hold on, we're gonna flip. The
People like looking at you when you talk.
I know, but Lord Almighty, that's close. As the epicenter of Cobb County's judicial activities. There we go. That's the words I should use.
Big words.
I know those are big. Time for vocab, people. But the other reason for Marietta kind of being the location is it is kind of center of the county. Also, fun fact, when they were coming up with names for Marietta, later it was decided that Cobham or Cobbville would have been better. I disagree with both. Disagree. So Amy's got some pictures. So we're gonna start with the earliest image of the courthouse. Let's remember, photography in the 1830s was non-existent. So we do not have a photograph. Please don't ask me if there is a photograph of the first courthouse.
We'll show you the earliest photograph.
Yeah, we'll show you the earliest ones, but it's not, the first ever courthouse was not photographed. So the first one, I think it's in that yellow book.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Okay, do you want to... Oh, this is behind us. Never mind. Okay.
Well, the courthouse is not behind us. Here, we can
But,
rotate if
okay.
you want.
Well, okay, flip around because maybe because my hand gets in the way. All right.
Well, that's the
So,
courthouse. So.
This... No, flip around now to me.
Well, I was on you and you made me
No,
flip. You mean move towards
Yes.
you. Hold on. As somebody said, this is Lucy and Ethel do history. She's Lucy, I'm
So
Ethel.
Professional. Okay, so this general area of the square has always been laid out. When they first originally laid the whole town center out, this was the original layout with a public park area and
Here, I'm gonna pan out around. I'll come back to you, I promise.
Okay. But on this side of the square where I'm at, the southern side, that's where the first courthouse was originally built. And it looked like this. It was just a little log cabin, really. It had an area, you can kind of see, this is a drawing of it based on descriptions, I believe, in the first 100 years by Sarah Temple that she had done some oral interviews back in the 1930s. asking old timers what it looked like, and so they did this drawing based on that. But it was on this side, in the middle of the square, actually. Okay, so then, and that was 1834 to 1838. Then, let's see if I can find it on here.
I did tab. I tried to.
You did tab.
I did tab.
Where's the tab? Here's the tab. Okay. Then in 1850.
No, from 1838.
Wait a minute.
Maybe the tabs got stuck together. My apologies.
Here it is.
There you go.
1838 to 1853 was the second courthouse building, still on this site. Okay, and this is a photograph of the building. The building is still standing, actually, but obviously it's not in the middle of the square anymore. It is now down on Washington Avenue, and it is the Bentley law firm.
We do have a picture of that one.
We do.
It's one of the papers. There it is.
Right
That's
here.
it.
Ding,
So you
ding,
can see a little bit different. This is a recent picture. This is Google Maps, but you can see a little bit different with the porch added, which the porch was added later. So the original courthouse didn't have that kind of double porch look that it's got now.
So they actually moved it, and when they moved it in 1853 or around 1855, they rolled it down the hill, down Washington Avenue from the square on logs, and using mules to pull the logs down, rolled it down. So it's kind of a neat process.
Yeah, Diane, that first courthouse does look like the log cabin on a syrup container. I agree with you.
Okay, so that was number 2.
Yeah.
Okay, number 3. This is, again, another drawing because we don't have a photograph of the building as a whole. Okay, this is from 1853 to 1864. Notice that year, 1864. What happened? Anybody?
I know, but I'm not going to tell.
Well, most of the town burned with the Union armies, Union occupation, and the courthouse was one of those buildings that got burned. Now, this was still, you can see in this drawing, in the middle of the square, okay? And no, wait, this was not.
No,
in the
it was
square.
in the
Sorry,
location where it
moved
is now.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm backtracking.
So, like where you were
Okay.
pointing your fingers, that would be East Park Square, and the
Yes.
courthouse is on East Park.
Courthouse is on, yes, at this point when they rebuilt it, sorry.
Yeah.
This is on East Park Square, where similar to where we have the courthouse now, in the middle of the square. Okay. There is a photograph just after the war
It's in the History in Focus book.
that we have of the ruins of that courthouse after it burned.
It should be one of the first ones, I think. It might be the
Yeah,
first one.
Okay. It is the first one. So this is a photograph that we have.
You can see the columns on the right-hand side, like right here. There we go. See, I put new. See, I did my manicure, so I look all fresh for you guys. But this image, though, has been slightly altered by us, just so it's a little bit clearer to see. But that is the only one that I know of currently post-war, kind of the ruins.
Right, and this is right after. These bricks right here, in case you're wondering, the bricks in this corner would be in the location of the southeast corner, kind of where Antiques on the Square is, if you want to show. And that's
yeah.
the ruins of the hotel, the Marietta Hotel, that was owned by our friend Henry Green Cole. And of course, it was burned not by the Union soldiers during the occupation. It was actually burned by local supporters of some sort. We don't know how local, we don't know who exactly they were, but they burned it because he was a Union spy. So they were pretty mad at him for that. So they burned this hotel. So, now, that was number 3. Oh, another thing too that is always fun to bring up when you're talking about the courthouse is, and in the area we're standing in here now, is this area does play into some of the folklore about tunnels under the square.
Yep.
Some of the old timers, and I hate using that term, but that's what they were quoted as, would said that they knew tunnels went from the courthouse. So this is pre-war, so it would have been for this courthouse in the middle.
Yeah.
Back towards the square, and that somewhere in this area, going back this direction, there are tunnels.
Yeah.
I have gone over this area with ground penetrating radar, and we have not found any anomalies in this area on the actual square. But you never know. We we could run across something.
Trust me, if she finds them, she'll get into it.
Right.
I promise you.
Oh yeah. So, okay, that's number 3, 1864. So, the war comes. We've got ruins for a while. You know, the world's in disarray around here in Marietta. There's a lot of cars coming by, so I'm hoping you guys can hear me. And it took a little while for them to build the next one.
Before you do that, while I'm thinking about it, okay,
Right.
so I'm gonna look right over here. We see this small little skinny tree is growing. I know a lot of people were upset when the tree had to be taken down last year out of the square. That tree was diseased and it had lots of holes in it. It was not a healthy tree, but we do know that that tree was planted sometime right after the burning, based off of, again, old-timer stories in the first 100 years. But I will say this, the museum, we do have one really large chunk of that tree. So don't worry, there is a piece of that tree and we are taking care of it, I promise. But you can see that little skinny one kind of there. That's
The only one
new
that's left that was that old is this one next to it, right?
Yeah, that's the only one that
the
I
only
know
one
of
left
left.
on the square that was that old.
Yeah,
It's
so,
this little ranger here.
but so, yeah, again, don't worry, there is a piece of it preserved at the museum. I know a lot of people were concerned, but again, trees can't last forever.
Right, but trees are important in telling history as well. I mean, they've been through so much, but we do have a story that we haven't done a lot with yet because it is a sensitive matter and I want to do it justice. But we do know that there was a lynching on the square, and at the early 20th century. And so it was on one of those trees.
Yeah.
We don't know which one. We don't know if that's that
And-
one or if it was anywhere else. They don't specify which tree, but we know it happened on the square.
And it was not Leo Frank.
No, not Leo.
I just wanna make-
He's down by the Big Chicken.
Yes, but a lot
it
of people
it was
have
an
heard that.
African-American man. There's a whole story with it that I will be interpreting at some point. I would love to put some sort of a marker or something commemorating that. Maybe not commemorating, but remembering, so that we don't forget. But there's stories have gone back and forth over the years of yes, there was a lynching, or no, I've never heard of a lynching on the square. And I can tell you, I did find news articles that do talk about that in great detail.
Yeah.
Terrible detail. So that's kind of the spot as well. Okay, so
Courthouse number 4. We're on number 4.
number 4. They built courthouse number 4 on the corner, the southeast corner, right there.
This one, the one that says Building C, that
Maybe
would
I
be
should
the
stand
area.
here now.
There, you go stand there.
Okay, so
Perfect.
you can go back and forth.
Yeah, I'll
So-
just swing around. So it's this picture right here.
Right here.
And we do know that a lot of the work was done by local businesses to build that courthouse. And there has been, that courthouse is to 1898, 99, somewhere around there, I think.
No.
No?
Wait.
I think
I
that,
think it was before that. Hold
all right, hold on, let's see who's right.
on. 1872.
Oh, no, when it lasted till, I'm sorry.
Well, the building was the same. They just changed the facade. So
Right.
They built this one. Here's another picture, another shot of
There's
it.
another image.
They built that in 1872. So, about 8 years after the courthouse burned during Union occupation, they built this grand, beautiful building.
Right, they needed to replenish the coffers because I think at
Yeah.
one point right after the war they had 16 cents.
Yeah, it
I was
took
like,
a while.
that's not going to
Yeah.
build a courthouse.
Yeah, it took a while. And so they finally were able to do that. But considering the devastation that occurred in this county, to get, to be able to build a building this grand within 8 years is pretty impressive,
Yeah,
I think.
I agree.
So that was 1872. Now, what were you saying?
Like 1898, 99 is when they kind of redid it. So the reason that the first one that we showed you with the clock tower kind of in the center, there's been stories that I've heard people say, oh, it's because it burned and that's what. No, it did not burn. And we are all people that love historic preservation, but this was kind of the moment where people I think it was the late 1890s, said, our courthouse isn't grand enough, so let's change it.
They changed the facade.
Yes, so it's not because the building itself was damaged, it's because they wanted something different. But it's so
They moved the clock tower, yeah.
moved the clock tower. And
But you can see the same kind of arches in the front
arches.
there. If you look at this, notice between the trees on this one.
Oops, sorry. There you go.
And then that one.
Right around, there we go, right there.
Yeah.
And then you've got the arches again right there. There we go. And then sometimes, I don't think I have a picture of it. It's probably in one of those books. Sometimes if you see images of, you're looking south down East Park, down at Atlanta Street, people will get the old Methodist church and the courthouse confused.
Yeah.
There is a difference, and usually it's the windows in the Methodist church have a kind of a cross in the middle versus the courthouse. But it only occupied this portion where you see the building with the C on it. It did not occupy the entire block. Very important, because I know a lot of us youngins didn't realize that.
Did you pull pictures from the businesses on that?
I did.
Okay,
There,
so we'll get to
yeah,
that in a
yeah, we'll
minute.
get to that in a second.
All right, so also I just wanted to point out, so you see this picture here, which is from 1960s era. Okay, you've got the building, the courthouse. I think that's between, at one point they had taken down the clock tower part, but while they were, taking down the courthouse. Why did they tear the courthouse down?
Okay, so the reason that they tore the courthouse down was the reason they said is it was too small, and so they divided all the spaces up, and then they said they just ran out of room, and
I
other
think
people
it was in disrepair.
Disrepair,
I think
and then
it
I
needed a lot of upgrades, and they just
Well,
at the time wanted something modern and
exactly.
the term retro, but
Yeah.
now it's retro. Back then it wasn't, but more modern.
Yeah.
Boxy, bland, whatever.
we are very lucky in that we do have pieces from the old courthouse, not just bricks, but jury rail. Sorry, there goes the bus. Pew, clerk's desk, and we actually just received last year the scale for weights and measures from the courthouse. We have not put that out on display yet, but hopefully soon you guys will see that. And it says Cobb County Courthouse on it. It's very cool.
The other thing
yes.
is, some people may be wondering, what is this marble thing here? Well, that was a series of benches that went around the Alexander Stevens Clay monument.
So like this area right here where the bell is used to be where Clay lived. Not lived, but his statue lived.
Yeah, he was on that side, and then they moved him to the other side. Can you see him from here?
Hold on, let me move a little bit, because it's a little hard with those lampposts. But if you look, you can kind of see him right there. Hold on, let me see. Nope, that's not gonna work. Right there, kind of in front of the lizards and lollipops, the striped awning. That's where he is now. So he moved from one side of the square to the other in the mid 80s during the renovation of Glover Park.
Okay, now boys and girls, let's see what else we got. Krista's tabs.
Yeah, I was on the ball today, people.
She's tabbing. Not dabbing, you tabbing.
No, I'm tabbing, that's right.
Oh, it embarrassed me.
Hey, all those people that are joining us. Hi, Michael. Hi, Jan. Hi, Anna. Hi, Charlie.
Tab these, so I'm thinking you're looking at these top two photos here.
Yeah, who doesn't love a good ice storm picture? So this is the ice storm 1936, so you guys can kind of get an idea of what it looked like. There's the courthouse, and this one right here, right by wiggle your fingers, thank you. That would be looking down from North Park down East Park, kind of with the Strand behind you. So that's why I tabbed it. I just wanted to give people an idea of what it looked like.
Yeah. And then, oh yeah, this is a good one. This is, the photographer, I think it's quite obvious, was on top of the Strand when they took this picture. Okay. And who notices something interesting right around here? Right there. There's a special, pretty unique object in the middle, in front of the courthouse there.
Hold on. So, Jack, is it true that all the statues in the South face south after the War of Northern Aggression? Senator Clay did face south, and then we moved him, and so now he faces east.
And y'all, Jack, you probably know, but for those who don't, the reason is not because just specifically to face south. The reason was so that their backs were to the north.
Yes.
So yeah, but when they moved him, they did not follow that directive. He's facing east now.
Yes, Jan, you are correct. This is a picture of the courthouse during World War II, and it is a submarine.
World War II Japanese submarine.
Thank you.
If I'm not mistaken. They toured around kind of as a fundraising effort. They collected it somehow. I don't know where exactly they found this. We don't have a whole lot of details on that.
So, if you guys can see it, yeah, you can read it. The Journal reported on April 13th, 1944, that the Kiwanis Club sponsored the exhibition of a two-man Japanese suicide submarine that participated in the attack on Pearl Harbor. It was 81 feet long, 6 feet in diameter, and weighed 17.5 tons. It was, quote, captured with its officer when it grounded on a reef near the island of Oahu.
Uh-huh.
So that's what that one. And then it's not of the courthouse side, but we actually have pictures of a German airplane that was in front of the Strand during World War II. So,
They took those around to try
yeah, raise money for war bonds and stuff like that. So,
this picture was the courthouse.
I don't know, which one am I looking at?
Oh, wait,
Oh, let's see. Can't trust it with
you
tabs.
did the aerial view. That's
Yeah, so I did the aerial view. We have these at the museum, but the courthouse, can you point to the courthouse, please? It's right,
gosh.
ironically enough, it's right by the square.
Right there?
There it is.
Bing,
There
bing.
it is.
Here's the square. Here's the courthouse. This would be Roswell Street going out. Our building's over here somewhere.
Yep.
Yep.
So, a lot of people riding their motorbikes today because it's a nice day. But we have some aerial shots. Those were taken by Joe McTire, who was with the MDJ for a long, long time. But I wanted to give you guys kind of a good aerial view. So we have more pictures, but I want.
First, before I show you those,
Yes.
pictures, in case you're interested in these photos and more, we do sell this book, History in Focus, in the gift shop. It is largely created from a lot of the photographs that are in our collection, in our archives. And I know you can't come by it now, but we can ship it.
We can
So,
ship it.
Yes.
Um,
And how
you
much
know-
is it?
Hey Jan, are we running a deal? Let us know. If not, we will post it on Facebook as its own post with whatever deal that Jan wants to run, because everybody needs a copy of that in their life, to be honest. So we got some pictures. I wanted to show you guys
Sanborn maps?
Sanborn maps.
What are Sanborn maps, Krista?
Okay, so the fire insurance purposes, Sanborn maps. Thank you, Jan. 1995. You guys let us know if you want one of those books, and we'll get one out to you. But Sanborn maps were used for fire insurance purposes. You see them starting. I think the earliest we have is what, 1885, maybe 1875. It's 1880. Okay, so. And you can see these online. They're all available either through the Library of Congress or the Georgia Library's Galileo. So this one right here I want to show you. Here's the square. You guys can see, and there's little cisterns or wells around each corner. And if you look here, we have Lawrence Street, Tucker Street, and Cemetery Street. So Washington Avenue, and now Roswell Street, was originally called Cemetery Street, because guess where it went? To the cemetery, but to the National Cemetery. So very important to know the difference. Tucker Street was the street that ran in the middle, so I'm going to kind of scoot here. If you guys notice, in between these buildings, it's very, very convenient that it looks like it's a nice walkway. It used to be a street. Tucker Street is actually named after Crawford Tucker, who was an early Marietta pioneer. Guess what? He's buried at the city cemetery, ironically enough. And that street went all the way down from East Park, all the way down through to Waddell on the other side. And so this one is a little bit later. This is about 10 years later, and you can see the names. Wait, no, this is the same one, isn't it?
What is Depot Street?
Oh, what is Depot Street? Depot Street is a pedestrian-friendly walkway that is no longer a drivable street. But if you notice too, it says Mill, Depot, and Paulding. It doesn't say Whitlock Avenue. It says Paulding. Because guess where that road took you? It took you to Paulding County.
Yes.
So,
And the other thing about Depot Street is, unfortunately for us, our address is still One Depot Street, so it's technically still a street in as far as the U.S. Mail Postal Service goes. And so it's very confusing for people when they're trying to find us on Depot Street, and it's no longer a street. It's just where Hemingway's has their tables and chairs.
Yeah, and Welcome Center has a Depot Street address too, so that's always a problem. But yeah,
tough.
So this is 1885. This map. I think the next one's in 1895. And a little bit of a difference. You don't see the square as much, but that's where you see the name Washington Avenue. And Washington Avenue goes across, and then Roswell Street cuts down, so it's a little bit different now. If you're wondering about the buildings, the pink means it's it's not a residence. So the courthouse is the one right above Washington, and then there are, I think pretty much every single one is either a grocery store, general merchandise, and I think one might be furniture, but
right here,
yeah, those buildings right there. If you go up farther, so between Tuck, so
these were all there was a city cafe for not this time period.
Not at this time period.
Later on, it was still a series of businesses and restaurants up until they built this complex in the 70s. Yeah. So they were still a lot of, and we have pictures of a lot of those. A lot of those businesses.
I think one of the next ones might show a little bit better of an idea. Oh no, wait, that's Tucker Street. You can flip through that one. So this is next.
Oh wait. Also, I wanted to point out these right here, Lawrence Street. As you went down Lawrence Street, there were also a series of businesses right here that is just the other side of our courthouse building now. And those were all part of the thriving black business district, black-owned business district that was all up and down Lawrence Street. And then you had Turner Chapel Church, which was down here as well. That was a very important epicenter of our African American communities back before desegregation.
Yeah, if you go to that next picture, I can elaborate a little bit more on one of those specifically. Okay, so this is around, excuse us, 1920, and if you guys see, there's a courthouse, and then there's a sign right there that says F.P. Rogers Grocery. So he is on the same part of the building block as the courthouse, but F.P. Rogers is Franklin Pierce Rogers. He and his brother Andrew Jackson Rogers were two of the most prominent African-American men post-Civil War in Marietta and Cobb County, and so he owned businesses and a grocery store right next to the courthouse. Next time Amy and I go out to the city cemetery, we'll go over towards their graves, and I could talk more about those too.
Wasn't he one of the only African Americans to have business on the actual square proper, not the side street? Yeah, and then he, when they started paving in 1917, he actually sued the city because they messed up his storefront when doing it. So this is the 1950s. I know this one's a little bit harder. So you see, we've got Joann's, we got Goldstein's, we got the Youth Center, we have Leaders, all on the east side. So right here where the building is with the clock tower now. And a lot of people who aren't familiar with Marietta's history, Joann's is not the same as Joann's fabric store that's around now. It was a ladies and young women's and girls dress shop. And so a lot of those businesses ended up moving to other sides of the square in the 70s. Leaders and Joann's moved over to the west side, and Goldstein's moved as well. But we didn't mention, Amy, really quick, I'm going to kind of go over here. So this is technically the 5th courthouse, this one with the clock tower, but I was told that the new one with the clock tower is not a new courthouse, it's an annex. Okay.
Is that true? Because you can't say that we've had 6 courthouses. Because it's still a part of the same complex.
It is, yeah, that's true. Because there were multiple buildings. Even later on, into the earlier to mid, especially the 20th century, you had other buildings behind this courthouse. You had other buildings back there that were technically a part of the court complex.
One of them being the jail.
Yeah, the jail, which was behind it. Back on Lawrence Street, there was a beautiful white marble building that was a court.
Oh, yeah.
Building, some sort.
Sorry, I'm trying to get you guys to see what that newer building looks like. Here's a vocab word for everybody. Another word for jail was the
hoosgow?
No, the calaboose.
The calaboose.
The calaboose. I was about to say caboose, but that's a train. I believe it was a calaboose. If not, somebody go ahead and find that word for me, but it's a great one.
Jack probably knows.
Yeah, hey Jack, what's the other word? I think it was calaboose. So here's another image of a courthouse. This is a postcard we have in the collection, and I think the other one is a postcard as well. But
there's a lot of great stories about things that happened at the courthouse steps, you know, properties that were bought and sold. The sheriffs used to sit on the front steps, you know, these front steps of the courthouse, waiting and watching the moonshiners come through town, and they kind of put different things in the road to make the cars bump a little bit when they drove over them, because you know, the harder it bumped, they could see if they were riding dirty.
Yep.
You know, and if they had, you know, if they were carrying loads of illegal liquor. And because this was the main thoroughfare, really, this was part of the main thoroughfare all the way. This is part of the old 41, which went all the way up from Chicago down to Florida. So that was kind of, you came straight through town, and so they would sit there and do that. There's a lot of stories. You know, this is where a lot of the news reporters came during the Leo Frank trial. After Leo was not during the trial, but after he was hung. They came up here to this area. So. A lot of historic things have happened here over the years. A lot of great stories.
We're hoping that when we reopen, and hopefully in May, our Remember When Club, hold on, I'm going to switch around. Our Remember When Club in May 22nd, we're going to do a slideshow of the renovation of Glover Park in the mid-1980s. So fingers crossed we will be back at that, back doing that. If not, I can always do that one live as a live stream, but I'm really hoping we'll be back. Just an FYI, our pop-in for April is canceled. We're hoping to just postpone our Evening with History with Michael Hitt for April, just to hopefully sometime in the fall.
And that was on the GMI cannons, the lost cannons. And where are they? Where are they? He's done research.
Yes, he has. But if you're interested in anything we're doing, please keep following us on Facebook, Instagram, our website, and then the other thing is, stay safe, stay healthy, and you know, if you guys just want to call and chat up for a little while one day while we're in the office,
Chris is more than happy.
Amy is more than happy. We are, you know what? To be honest, I will say I have missed having to talk to people. We miss our visitors,
volunteers.
Miss our volunteers. But you know what? Stay 6 feet away, and stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll talk to you guys next week from a location. I'll give you a hint. I have never actually been to this location. I don't know if you knew that, but I've only driven past it.
I can't remember.
I'll give you a hint. It is near Session Street.
Yeah, oh yeah.
There you go. All right, I've only driven past it. I've never been in it. So we will talk to you guys next week. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.